What's up, everybody? Wes Hockwitz here, joined alongside Mike Spofford. Packers Preview brought to you by Microsoft Surface, taking your questions on X, Facebook, and YouTube. You can send those through right now because the Green Bay Packers are getting ready to face the San Francisco 49ers, 3:25 p.m. Central Start Time, a game that can be viewed on Fox. Mike, we've known for a minute now the Packers' two inactives, two ruled out players for this game will be Edgerrin Cooper, who unfortunately aggravated a hamstring injury this week, and Jair Alexander as he's working his way back with the knee. Colby Wooden is questionable as he tries to make a return here from the shoulder injury that kept him out against Chicago. A litany of injuries over on the San Francisco 49ers side of things. At the top of that list, though, Nick Bosa, Brock Purdy will not be playing on Sunday at Lambeau Field.
Yeah, that was some big news with regard to the starting quarterback for the 49ers that we just found out shortly before we came and sat down in here. We kind of had a feeling most of the week that Nick Bosa was going to be out. The word was that the hip oblique thing he was dealing with had kind of gotten worse in the last game for the Niners against the Seahawks. He ended up leaving that game, couldn't finish it. So that wasn't necessarily a surprise. But early in the week, it was sounding like, okay, Brock Purdy will be limited in practice with the bad shoulder, but it sounded like he was going to play. Well, then apparently on Thursday, the shoulder was such that they sent Purdy for an MRI to get an image on it. They wanted to rule out anything more significant. And he ended up not practicing then on Friday, and they've ruled him out. So it'll be the Brandon Allen show running San Francisco's offense now. He has a whole bunch of weapons around him.
Yep.
McCaffrey and Samuel and Kittle and all those guys, Juwan Jennings, but it will not be Brock Purdy pulling the trigger.
And George Kittle, full participant in Friday's practice after he told people he would be playing against the Packers, does not carry an injury designation. He will play on Sunday. Trent Williams, though, their left tackle, potential future Hall of Famer, questionable, did not practice this week due to the ankle. And John Feliciano, their center, knee injury was limited on Friday. He is also questionable. Mike, let's get right into the questions because, well, quite frankly, I want to go watch Bayport play in the state championship game as we speak. But this is starting with Ben Swanson on Facebook. Yay, finally made it back. New homeowner, 2-minute drive from work. Congratulations, Ben. So, Brandon Allen, any thoughts?
Honestly,
Matt LaFleur has history with them.
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. That Allen was actually on the Rams roster back in 2017 when Matt LaFleur was working on Sean McVay's staff. I'll be honest with you, Wes. I don't know anything about Brandon Allen. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time this weekend looking up a little bit about his career and what his experience is. But it's not what the 49ers wanted. It certainly gives the Packers an advantage when you face a backup quarterback, and I think it's an advantage the Packers have to cash in on Sunday afternoon.
And Brandon Allen has been there since 2023, so he has some experience in the offense. And even before that, he was with Cincinnati. We know the history there with Zach Taylor, the Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay. He was drafted in the 6th round by the Jacksonville Jaguars back in 2016 and spent a season there. Also had a cup of coffee with the Denver Broncos, whom he actually, I do believe, started games for. All that being said, I've said this time and time again. Yes, it's going to be very different looking at it on paper now with this San Francisco 49ers team compared to what we thought potentially it could look like on offense and defense. The Green Bay Packers, though, have to play their game. You have to be able to take advantage of that opportunity. Okay, happy Friday, Mike and Wes. This is from Thomas Greeny on YouTube. With the 49ers down Purdy, does the Packers D throw some new looks at Brandon Allen? More blitzes, question mark.
I mean, we'll just have to see exactly how Jeff Hafley wants to play this. I mean, the one thing about shifting from Purdy to Allen at quarterback, it's not as though the 49ers are going to completely revamp their offense. They're going to run their offense. It just won't be Brock Purdy running it. So from a game plan standpoint, I think I don't necessarily see the Packers changing a whole heck of a lot, but then situationally, you get in certain third down situations, you get a feel for how Brandon Allen is reacting on the money down, on third down when he needs to move the chains, and then as the game goes along, then maybe you start to throw some different looks at him and try to create some confusion or just keep him off balance in a sense that wouldn't be as easy to do with Brock Purdy with the experience he has running this this offense, and having been in sync now for multiple years with Kyle Shanahan calling the plays for him.
This question is on X from Goodfella Pack. Can you ask Mike if their plan is activating Jamin Davis from the practice squad? Davis was signed to the practice squad, I want to say it was 3 weeks ago. He's been in a weird situation where he was a former high pick for Washington.
Yeah. Played
inside linebacker for a long time. I think he started somewhere in the 40s, maybe 50 games for them. He moved to an edge defender in the defense that Dan Quinn was bringing into town. Doesn't make the team, and then, does make the team. It gets cut. Played 5 games this season. He ends up in Green Bay, and Matt LaFleur and everybody said he is going to be an inside linebacker. That being said, the decision the Packers ultimately have to make, if Isaiah McDuffie is getting asked to do more on defense or Eric Wilson is being asked to do more on defense, is who's going to be the special teams player that steps up. And that's where could be a linebacker, it could be a safety. Robert Rochelle was inactive last week. He's a guy that has been kind of a core teamer for them. If needed, I'm guessing he will be up with Jair Alexander being down. A lot of different ways they could go. Davis is a guy, I don't know anything about him in terms of his special teams. I'm not sure how much he played in that phase for Washington, but obviously the Packers signed him for a reason. He's on the team, and there's 16 guys on the practice squad, all of whom could be elevated for this game on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, though, too, is we mentioned the 2 guys for the Packers who are out, and Colby Wooden is questionable, but the rest of the active roster is clean, so to speak, in terms of injuries. So there aren't a whole lot of other spots to fill necessarily in terms of somebody being up and active on game day. I agree with you entirely, though, that if they were to make any moves as far as elevating anybody from the practice squad, I think the number one consideration there would be special teams more so than plays from scrimmage.
100%. Guitar Ted on X. Any idea how Kalen King is coming along with our cornerback issues? I was wondering if he might be able to contribute. Well, a couple things on the cornerback front there. Robert Rochelle ultimately had to get signed to the active roster because he was out of elevations from the practice squad.
Right.
That was why they made that move last week to get him back with the active roster and have him as a potential candidate to be on the game day roster. Kalen King, very impressive young man. I thought he had some good film, had some good moments in the summer. The only part I will mention with him in terms of the asterisks there is the Packers were moving him inside to cornerback. Now, again, special teams is the biggest consideration, but when you're talking about the cornerback position, they weren't using him outside as much throughout training camp. Inside, the Packers have a ton of options right now. And honestly, outside they do too, with Eric Stokes available, Carrington Valentine likely will be the one that will start on Sunday, and also Corey Ballentine has been in that position too.
Yeah, a veteran guy.
A veteran guy. So, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily an indictment at all that King has not made it up to the active roster or been elevated yet. I think it's probably more a byproduct of, despite all the injuries they've had with Jair Alexander, the Packers, by and large, have been pretty healthy at cornerback.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been getting asked a lot in Insider Inbox about Kalen King and kind of, hey, how's he doing or how does he look? And a couple of things there. I think the question is being asked quite a bit because he was a 7th-round pick, just like Carrington Valentine was a 7th-round pick last year, and we saw how much Valentine ended up getting to play. Well, this year, the Packers, obviously, Alexander has missed his share of games, but otherwise, the Packers have been pretty healthy at cornerback. They haven't had to dig as deep into the depth chart at cornerback as they did last year. So I think that's one of the reasons. But the other reason we can't really give an update necessarily on Kalen King is because we don't get to watch the 11-on-11 in practice during the regular season. So I'm sure he's doing a lot of things on the scout team, and that is where you get noticed. That is how a guy like Brenton Cox Jr. now has gotten his opportunity to be on the active roster. But honestly, I don't know how Kalen King is doing on the scout team, how things are going there. All I know is that a guy like that, the message around here always is be ready for your opportunity when it comes, and that's all you can ask for of a player.
Mike Spofford, Wes Hockwitz, Packers Preview, presented by Microsoft Surface, 3:25 p.m. Central Start Time on Sunday. Green Bay Packers and San Francisco 49ers Week 12 action at Lambeau Field. A couple more minutes here if you want to get your questions in or try to get your questions in. You can do that on X, Facebook, or YouTube. I will throw you a few more from my tablet here. This is from Jim Dorsey on Facebook. More of a statement than a question. They are going to stack the box to stop Christian McCaffrey. I will mention this, and I like how you had said that. They still have a plethora of options offensively despite losing Brandon Ayuk and despite a lot of these injuries that they've weathered. George Kittle's full participation on Friday seems to be a good indication that his hamstring is doing okay. Juwan Jennings has become a real playmaker in this league outside of special teams. The Packers began to see that last year during the postseason. And McCaffrey is back from that Achilles injury. Yes, you do need to contain him, and at times the Packers have actually done a pretty good job of that, but the way that he can catch the football, the way that you can use Deebo Samuel and Jennings, there are so many potential dangers that lurk. And I feel like, and I made this statement in Insider Inbox this week, along with Matt LaFleur, few in the National Football League make do better than Kyle Shanahan. He will find a winnable game plan. You see what Jordan Mason did in the first 8 games of the season. That wasn't just complete happenstance. It was a guy they developed in creating the right opportunities for him in the offense. Brandon Allen has been there. He's 32 years old. He's done that. He's seen these things. And he has plenty of weapons to work with. So I don't know if it's as simple as just stacking the box and trying to stop Christian McCaffrey.
No, I don't think it is. Not when all these other weapons are around there. As I said, I think it's going to be the early portion of this game, maybe the entire first half for that matter, is going to be Jeff Hafley, the Packers defensive coordinator, feeling out exactly how Brandon Allen is going to be running this offense, how Kyle Shanahan wants to try to attack this defense with those weapons, but without Brock Purdy.
Yep.
And then once you get a feel for that and you settle into the game, then it's like, okay, now here we go, and now the chess match really starts, right? So it's going to be very, very interesting because if I'm Kyle Shanahan and I don't have my starting quarterback, I want that ball out of his hands and into the hands of those playmakers as quickly as possible. I don't think it's going to be as many of the long developing routes downfield and whatnot. And that's not to say he's just going to hand it off to Christian McCaffrey 3 out of every 4 plays, but he's going to get the ball out of his hands quickly to get it to Kittle, to get it to Samuel, to get it to McCaffrey, whatever it takes, or to Juwan Jennings to try to move the chains.
Do you know what they all have in common? They all can make plays in space.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what they'll be looking to do. We've been doing this now for 9 years, doing Packers Preview or some form of it. I've never had this happen before, and there's really no question that comes along with it. There's just a lady on Facebook, Dawn Broadbent, that's just sending us emojis with hearts. It's just a woman with hearts all around it. One was blowing a heart, one had hearts around her. She's looking longingly. Dawn, we hope you're having a wonderful day. That's about all I can make of that. This one goes to, let's do Ben. We'll go back to Ben on Facebook. Did either of you pay close attention to Brenton Cox Jr. on special teams? It said that he was improved, and one of the things last year was that special teams was keeping him off the field. Well, 2 things to this. I wrote about it today on Packers.com, the Packers mobile app. You can find my story, my prose in that area. But I will say this. One, I think he is much improved. I watched he only had 2 reps on punt return as a rusher right up front. Played with physicality, played with focus, and as Matt LaFleur and Rich Bisaccia both credit him for, he bodied up his guy. His guy got frustrated, headbutted him. Brenton stayed back.
Yep.
Did not retaliate. You've seen that time and time again where somebody will headbutt, the other guy shoves, the other guy pushes, does something, and then that's where the flag comes. Brenton was smart. Took the ball from the 9 to the 24 and helped his team. It wasn't just that it was that special teams, he wasn't able to contribute on special teams. As I've said time and time again now, it's the fact that Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley Enagbare, and now Aaron Mosby all contribute on special teams already.
Yeah.
So his pathway to the roster was kind of in a bit of a logjam. He gets 22 defensive snaps last week. He gets 2 quarterback hits. He gets a TFL, and he gets a big sack for 10-yard loss. And he put his name out there.
Yeah.
And when you know this guy, you know his backstory, you know his pedigree, Brenton Cox Jr. was a blue chipper. And now he has, as he said time and time again, all he's ever asked for is an opportunity, and he wants to maximize it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would expect he would get at least as many snaps on defense, if not more, this week compared to last week based on how he performed. And when it comes to special teams, I think it's the right approach with a guy, the Packers didn't just bring him up and then throw him in and ask him to play all the different special teams. They picked one. They said, all right, punt return, punt rush, punt return, get in there. Here's your assignment. Here's your job. Let's see what you can do there. And he performed well. So he's going to earn more opportunities potentially on special teams now as well.
This question is from Nick on X. With the fantasy football playoff push incoming, which Packers player is a must-play this week and for the stretch run to get to the ship? I'll take this one, Mike, because it ties into Sunday's game at Lambeau Field and the Green Bay Packers game day program, which I edit. And who's on the cover of this week's game day program? Jayden Reed. And that is my pick for the guy to play this week. I think Jayden Reed, in addition to the fact that he has had an explosive start to this season, 620 receiving yards. We know all the different superlatives now about what he's accomplished in his first 25 games. The reason I bring him up is last week, Christian Watson, 4 catches for 150 yards.
Right.
Jayden Reed can do everything on the football field. As those big play targets emerge, that's what stretches out a defense, and I think there is a massive opportunity here, especially without Nick Bosa pressuring the quarterback, for the Packers really to get Jayden Reed going in this game.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you there. We've seen it with this Packers offense that guys who are quiet for a couple weeks, a week or two, then all of a sudden, boom, they bust out and have a big game. Christian Watson was the guy last week, the 4 catches for 150 yards. Tucker Kraft only had 1 ball thrown his way last week. Unfortunately, it was off target and it was intercepted, but that was the only ball that was thrown his way. So is this the type of game now after a quiet week that Tucker Kraft ends up, with a big productive day in the passing game? And Tucker Kraft was incredibly productive in the run game with his blocking last week, by the way, even though only 1 pass came his way. But that's the example. That's what's been the MO. Like, Romeo Doubs only had 2 passes thrown his way last week. The Packers only threw the ball 17 times. We all know what Romeo Doubs can do, and he had a heck of a game in the playoffs last year in San Francisco in January. Performed really well coming off of the big game against Dallas the week before. Packers have plenty of guys that they can turn to here. Trying to predict exactly who it might be is difficult, but I think the real big play guys are Jayden Reed and Christian Watson.
Jayden Reed, Devontae Wyatt, Zach Tom on this week's game day program. Be sure to pick that up when you come to Lambeau Field on Sunday. Last 2 questions here. Tom Grassi on YouTube. Hey, Mike and Wes, longtime supporter and first-time commenter. Again, like last week, that's a lie. With Wes wearing the G on his sleeve today, does this impact Spoff wearing his heart on his?
Oh, wow.
If there's anyone that wears their heart on their sleeve, it's definitely this guy.
Well, but it's also Tom Grassi.
It is Tom Grassi as well.
He does so as well. I don't think I do that quite as often as you guys do.
No, probably not.
Yeah, that's okay, though.
Rob on YouTube, what kind of product does Spoff use in his hair? That ties into another question about your hair.
We don't need to take those
You don't want to ask those? You don't want to answer that? You against that? D.A. Ogre 12, who would win if you 2 arm wrestled? Boy, our social department's just killing it today with these questions. Let's do 2. Oh, it's Hunter Haney. Y'all should do a segment on Spoff's hair. Hunter, what's the segment? Okay, there it is. Like, are we gonna style it, profile it? What's the deal? Let's close on these 2. Scott Mummy on X was wondering why don't the Packers use gadget plays with Malik Willis. I think it potentially could be in the cards, but I just don't think you go into a game. I don't know. I don't know what you think about it. I mean, they did a couple years ago. They did the Keyshawn Nixon run for 11 yards. There's certainly, you never know when you could potentially drop something. I'm sure they've repped different things.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess during the stretch here, I've been more focused on the health of Jordan Love as opposed to, okay, what kind of trickeration can they come up with a backup quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, our experience with Matt LaFleur and the way he does things is he doesn't just come up with some kind of a concept to throw it in there just to have it. It's because it's something that he feels from a game plan perspective against that particular opponent is something that would be useful. I agree with you. I would imagine that the Packers have repped some things that they would have ready, and it's just a matter of, okay, when they get into a game planning against a certain opponent, does this seem like it would fit?
Yes.
And so I do think we could see that at some point, but which opponent the coaches are going to feel like, okay, this would really be a good idea to try it, I have no idea when that might happen.
Ben Swanson raised a good point, too. He said, my concern with the quarterback lies in that Matt LaFleur did a heck of a job with Willis. Could Kyle Shanahan do a heck of a job with Allen for sure? I mean, he did it last year with Sam Darnold, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they've done it before with these guys. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
He's Mike Spofford. I'm Wes Hockwitz. Hey, give me a key to victory. How do the Green Bay Packers win this? Get to 8 wins on the season on Sunday.
I'm going to change actually what I said in final thoughts because we taped that earlier before Brock Purdy was ruled out.
That's what Anna would do. Anna Murphy from our social department would do something like that. Sorry.
My key to victory in this game is to tackle well on defense because, as I said before, I think with the backup quarterback, they're going to get the ball out of his hands quickly into the hands of the playmakers. Don't let the broken tackles then, rupture into big plays. Packers didn't tackle all that well against the Chicago Bears last week. You want to have a bounce-back week in that department, and I think that will help prevent the 49ers from getting some of those big chunk plays.
You know what that reminds me of, too? This should be the caution, the word wise, making sure that your antennas are up. Last year, New York Giants, Tommy DeVito, Green Bay Packers did not tackle well in that game, and we all saw what the final outcome was.
100%.
You have to be able to keep these guys in front of you, stay penalty-free, and honestly, the biggest thing for me is Nick Bosa not being out there. We saw the statistics. Rob Domofsky from ESPN put him out there. Their pressure numbers, their stats as a whole defensively are vastly different when Nick Bosa is not on the field. The Packers need to maximize that. I think this is definitely a game now that is set up for Jordan Love to do some work. I think the weather, the temperature, even though some people made a lot of my video of the Lambeau Field with the snow, I think it's probably going to be pretty temperate on Sunday. Jordan Love, I think this is a great game for him to get going.
And don't think that those defensive coaches in San Francisco don't know about those pressure numbers with Bosa versus without Bosa. They might be coming into this game knowing that they weren't going to have Bosa.
Yep.
They might get really, really creative, and they might throw some crazy exotic stuff at Jordan Love just to see if it works. Who knows?
He's Mike Spofford. I'm Wes Hockwitz, who's going to go watch the Bayport Pirates now hopefully win a state championship. Thank you for watching, as always, on Packers Preview. Be sure to stay tuned to Packers.com, the Packers mobile app. As always, a lot of content up on there. Mike and I looked at the rivalry, we looked at the history, we looked at the Packers' explosive plays. Mike's One Last Look column will be up tomorrow, in addition to our Final Thoughts video. And until next time, for Mike, I'm Wes. We'll see you later.